This is one of the sexiest wedding photos ever taken. Prince Harry is kissing Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, like he knows he married the love of his life. One hand on her face, the other holding her close, completely consumed by the moment. This is passion. This is desire. This is a man who is absolutely crazy about his wife. And Meghan is right there with him, fully present, fully in love, and completely swept up in the moment. The chemistry in this photo is undeniable. It is intimate. It is electric. It is incredibly sexy. There is nothing more attractive than two people who are deeply in love and unapologetically devoted to one another. You know these two are still setting off smoke alarms. That kind of passion does not disappear. It matures. It deepens. It becomes the heartbeat of a marriage, a family, and a shared purpose. You can see it in the way they support each other. You can see it in the way they are raising their children. You can see it in the meaningful work they continue to do together. This photo captures what has always made Harry and Meghan so compelling. A genuine love story. A powerful partnership. A connection that is still as hot, as strong, and as undeniable as ever. On their anniversary, this image is the perfect reminder that the sexiest thing in the world is being loved completely by the right person. Happy anniversary, Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Wishing you many more years of love, laughter, purpose, and kisses that still stop people in their tracks. And that's the read. If you like your tea hot, share it, save your seat, and follow for more. This is the Notorious JTB, Notoriously Opinionated, signing out.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We're glad you're here. If you enjoy thoughtful royal commentary, media analysis, and diving beneath the surface of the stories dominating headlines, then you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the conversation, because today we're unpacking a story that, on the surface, sounds incredibly simple. But once you see how it unfolded, it raises a much bigger question about modern media, royal reporting, and the endless fascination surrounding Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Because today's discussion is not really about wedding photos. It's not really about candles. It's not even really about Meghan's lifestyle brand. It's about something larger. It's about what happens when a media ecosystem becomes so invested in a narrative that even the most ordinary moments begin transforming into headline controversies. It's about the cycle of reaction, speculation, interpretation, and outrage that seems to follow Harry and Meghan wherever they go. And today, that cycle has brought us to one of the most fascinating examples yet. Meghan Markle posting anniversary photographs and somehow finding herself at the center of a new conspiracy theory. Now, before we jump in, let's set the scene, not to sound overly conspiratorial ourselves, but if you've followed royal media recently, you may have noticed something interesting developing over the past several months. Certain royal commentators and reporters seem to be appearing repeatedly within the same circles. They show up on one another's podcasts. They reference one another as sources. They build stories around one another's reporting. And gradually, a particular interpretation begins gaining momentum. Again, none of that is necessarily unusual. Media personalities collaborate all the time. Political commentators do it. Entertainment journalists do it. Sports analysts do it. But there's something uniquely interesting happening within royal coverage lately, because increasingly, the stories seem to become more dramatic with each retelling. Think about some of the narratives we've seen. There have been claims that Meghan's Montecito kitchen was somehow a laughingstock. There were stories suggesting Oprah Winfrey and George Clooney secretly disliked Harry and Meghan. There have been endless analyses of body language, clothing choices, Instagram captions, facial expressions, and hidden messages supposedly buried within social media posts. At times it feels like there's a competition underway. Who can discover the most shocking interpretation? Who can uncover the most dramatic hidden meaning? Who can turn the smallest detail into the biggest story? Because in today's media world, attention is currency. Headlines generate clicks. Strong reactions generate engagement. Outrage generates discussion. And once that machine starts moving, ordinary events can suddenly become major controversies. Which brings us to Meghan Markle's latest offense, celebrating her wedding anniversary. Yes, really. Recently, Meghan and Prince Harry celebrated their 8th wedding anniversary, and Meghan shared previously unseen photographs from their 2018 wedding day. Nostalgic pictures, personal memories, intimate moments from a major milestone in their lives. And for most people, that sounds entirely normal. Couples celebrate anniversaries every day. People post wedding memories constantly. Social media practically exists for throwbacks and personal milestones, birthdays, vacations, family memories, anniversaries. This is standard behavior. Yet according to Daily Mail editor-at-large Alison Boshoff, there was something far more significant taking place. During an appearance on Palace Confidential, Boshoff argued that Meghan's anniversary photo release was not simply sentimental. According to her interpretation, there was strategy involved. Marketing strategy. Boshoff suggested that the timing of the photo release coincided with attention surrounding Meghan's lifestyle brand. As ever, specifically a candle named 519, a reference to May 19th, Harry and Meghan's wedding date. And from that detail came a larger theory. The suggestion was that Meghan intentionally released these nostalgic wedding photographs as a means of funneling people toward her brand. According to Boshoff, this year carries special importance because, as ever supposedly, needs to begin generating serious results. In her view, this is a make-or-break period. Then she took things further. She compared Meghan's 7th wedding anniversary celebration with this year's. According to Boshoff, last year's anniversary involved Meghan sharing a mood board featuring memories and family moments. She suggested people reacted negatively and implied this year's approach felt noticeably different. Then came the conclusion. She questioned why things were different and proposed that commercial motivations explained the change. Now let's stop here for a second, because this is where things become genuinely fascinating. Not necessarily because the theory itself exists, people speculate all the time, but because of how quickly speculation becomes narrative. Someone introduces an interpretation, someone else repeats it, a podcast discusses it, another outlet references the discussion, reaction channels react, social media clips begin circulating. Suddenly the discussion expands. Eventually people stop asking where the idea originated. Instead, they simply react to the interpretation itself. And this process has become incredibly common online. Stories no longer simply spread, they evolve, they expand, they grow. Sometimes they become larger than the event that inspired them. Because look what happened here. Step 1. Meghan posts anniversary photographs. Step 2. Questions arise. Step 3. Commentators speculate. Step 4. Theories develop. Step 5. Additional narratives appear. Suddenly, discussions are no longer about anniversary photos. Now they're about business plans, brand projections, financial pressure, influencer culture, future ventures, fashion possibilities, marketing strategies. The original event almost disappears, and perhaps that's the most interesting part of all. The conversation stops becoming about actions and starts becoming about intentions. Not what happened, but why it happened. And intentions are incredibly easy to debate because no one truly knows them. People can endlessly assign motivations. Every image becomes symbolic, every caption becomes strategic, every post becomes coded. Which brings us to another curious element of this story, the fashion speculation. Boshoff also addressed rumors suggesting Meghan might secretly be preparing to launch a fashion line. These rumors reportedly emerged after Meghan shared a photo showing herself standing in front of a wardrobe filled with designer clothing. One particular Giorgio Armani suit reportedly stood out and was later worn during a Geneva appearance. Online observers interpreted this as a possible clue. Maybe Meghan was teasing something. Maybe this was branding. Maybe there was a hidden message. Maybe a fashion line announcement was coming. Boshoff rejected that idea, arguing that creating a fashion brand requires major investment and saying this looked less like Meghan the designer and more like Meghan, the influencer. And again, we see the pattern. A photo appears, people analyze the background, objects become clues, low speculation expands, suddenly a wardrobe transforms into evidence. And this raises a bigger question. At what point does analysis become over-analysis? Because there's a difference between observing public figures and treating every social media post like encrypted intelligence. For years now, Meghan Markle has inspired an extraordinary level of interpretation. Everything becomes symbolic, everything becomes intentional, everything becomes part of a larger theory. And after enough time, something interesting begins happening. People stop reacting to actual events. Instead, they react to assumptions about events. And perhaps that's why stories involving Meghan often feel so different from celebrity stories involving almost anyone else, because Meghan doesn't merely receive coverage. She receives interpretation layered on top of interpretation, layered on top of interpretation. At times, it almost feels as though the reaction itself becomes more important than the original story. Now, for the sake of argument, let's entertain Boshov's theory. Let's assume Meghan really did think, I'll post anniversary photos and maybe people will notice the candle. Okay, and? What exactly is the scandal? People connect personal experiences to branding all the time. Authors release books around birthdays. Artists tie projects to anniversaries. Celebrities align business launches with important life events. Companies do it constantly. That's not some extraordinary revelation. That's modern marketing. And even then, critics have pointed out something important. The anniversary post reportedly didn't include direct product links. There wasn't some giant sales message attached. There wasn't a flashing sign saying, "Go buy candles." There were simply photographs, memories, moments, and somehow that became a week-long media discussion, which tells us something else entirely. Because regardless of where anyone stands on Meghan Markle, whether people support her, criticize her, admire her, or simply observe from a distance, one thing remains undeniably true. She generates attention, enormous attention. A wedding anniversary post became days of conversation. Think about that. A few photographs created headlines, reaction videos, discussions, debates, and theories. That level of fascination says something. And maybe that's the larger story here. Not the photos, not the candle, not even the speculation. The story might actually be the extraordinary ecosystem surrounding Meghan coverage itself, because somewhere along the way, the reactions have become their own industry. And when reactions become the industry, ordinary moments can suddenly transform into major events. A photograph becomes a statement. A wardrobe becomes a clue. An anniversary becomes a strategy. And before long, people are wearing metaphorical tinfoil hats, trying to decode hidden meanings in family pictures posted from California. At that point, maybe it's worth stepping back and asking an important question. Are we still discussing Meghan Markle, or are we discussing the stories people tell themselves about Meghan Markle? Because those are not always the same thing, and perhaps that's why this entire situation feels so fascinating, because ultimately, beneath all the headlines and theories and speculation, two people celebrated another year of marriage. That's what happened. Everything else came afterward. And with that said, we want to hear your thoughts. Was Meghan simply sharing anniversary memories? Was there a branding angle? Are commentators reading too much into every move? Or is this simply the nature of celebrity and royal culture in the social media age? Let us know down below, because this conversation is always evolving. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with fellow royal watchers and media observers. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps these conversations going. Until next time, take care, stay curious, keep questioning the headlines, and remember, sometimes the reactions become the story. We'll see you in the next episode.